Hello, hello, and welcome to Decaf, a production of the Beacon Center of Tennessee. Taylor and Mark back at you. We are both wearing apparel, if you're listening and not watching, of our true loves today. I have my Blink 182 sweatshirt on, which Mark always gives me a hard time when I wear Blink 182 merch, but I equally give him a hard time when he wears jazz merch because I'm convinced that he doesn't own any other hats, shirts, sweatshirts, sweatpants. Like this man could just be wearing jazz all the time with jazz in the background. And I really, let me just say, I don't think that I ever understood your love of the jazz and where it came from. You're from Pennsylvania. Then you lived in DC, correct?
Yep.
And then you lived here.
Went to college in Wisconsin.
Went to college in Wisconsin. So the jazz feels very like maybe you just picked a team because you liked their look. I don't know.
It was not that at all. I won't bore you with like 20 minutes of the story, Hal. But essentially,
Okay.
I'll boil it down
Thank
to the
you.
idea that I loved the way they always played hard. And I always kind of cheered for them. They made the finals against Michael Jordan, who I didn't like. And I cheered for them in those finals where they lost. And then essentially, I always cheered for them. I love the way they played. They never had superstars. Then their two best players retired. They're supposed to be the worst team in history. And I'm just like, I liked them before. I liked the way they played. And that year, they're supposed to win no more than 9 games, and they went 41-41. So 8th grade is when I started loving them because I just love the way they played. It's one of the biggest Cinderella underdog stories. And I just love them ever more since then. So I can go into way more detail over drinks, but for now, I'll keep it at that. I have a real reason, though.
Okay, I actually really do like that. And we do need to go on another double date and talk about Vanderpump and your love of the jazz, because Blake probably has some stories that his team loves too. And Kira and I can just talk about crappy reality television.
Sounds right.
Before we start, I got to give Mark a shout out. You probably can't tell on this video, but Mark has been on a fitness journey. And he has given up drinking alcohol, eating fast food. And Mark, you're looking thin. Like if a gust of wind comes with these storms later this afternoon, you might blow away, you and Sloan. I mean, I don't know how she hangs onto the ground either, but I am really impressed. You look great.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't say fitness journey. I think because I haven't really worked out at all. I just have eaten better and stopped drinking, essentially. Yeah, me and Slaughter are both 4 pounds now, so we're about equal. Yeah.
Yes.
No, well, I appreciate
you
it.
blow away in the wind.
I've had a couple, I gave up alcohol for about a month and a half and fast food. And then, we had our draft this past weekend. So I went back and I gotta now get back on the straight and narrow, but I'm excited. I've kind of, let myself go a little bit more than I wanted to for about a year or two, but I feel good. I will say this one thing though. People say when you give up alcohol, you feel better. I didn't experience that.
I think that your relationship with beer is one that you always feel better when you've got a cold beer.
I know, and I think it's just like I'm not getting drunk a lot. Like I just have like 1 or 2 beers to watch a game, and it's like I don't feel better not having it. I feel like everyone's like, "Oh, you'll feel a lot better." Like I don't. I don't agree with that. I don't feel worse, but it's like I feel better because I'm thinner. But outside of that, it doesn't make me feel any better.
No, I mean, I think that the best part of my day is my evening rosé.
I know.
And watching, crappy reality television with Blake and drinking my rosé. I think that's the best part of my day. So, fitness journey or not, I don't believe in restrictive things. If someone tells me don't have your rosé for a month, I'm going to say you can exit. I'm going to always have my Vanderpump rosé while I watch Vanderpump at night. This literally has consumed my entire life, Mark, and I have a problem.
It's so exciting. And the cool thing too is right now, there's no sports that matter, right? Like the baseball playoffs haven't happened yet. Like this is dead season.
Right.
NBA's over. Football hasn't started yet. So it's a really good time to give up drinking because I'm like, I would have a beer or two when I'm watching football on Thursday night or Saturday or Sunday or the MLB playoffs or the NBA season. So it's like, I didn't have anything to do. And I'm like, this is a great time to just give up drinking. I don't need to drink. It's not like it matters. It's nice to have a beer or two with that, but it adds up. If you have 2 beers, 6 nights a week, it doesn't feel like that much, but then it's like, oh, well, that's 12 beers a week. And as you know, beer has a lot of calories.
A lot of calories and a lot of sugar. Well, also, August is a good time to do that too, because there are no holidays in August. So, every other month has some type of holiday. And I feel like with a holiday, you get a festive cocktail. At least that's how I operate. And I don't know what the Labor Day festive cocktail is. I guess that would just be beer out on the lake. But you do festive cocktails at holidays, and August is the one month without a festive holiday, no cocktails. So I think that August would be a good month if you want to stay on your streak. It would be a good month to do it too, and then you'll be down to 2 pounds. So this is Mark's journey, not actually
She
fitness, just give omission diets.
just being a normal person. Don't forget though, we're going to Chicago at the end of the month, so that's tough, and that's in August, and we're going to a
Ooh,
Cubs game. So
I
actually, and really
know.
cool. I won't go into this, but we're as a staff, we're going to go to the Cubs Brewers game, which is going to be one of the
Yeah.
biggest games of the whole season. It's going to be the end of August. You have about
Mhm.
a couple weeks left of regular season baseball, and the Cubs, Brewers, and Reds are all fighting out for a playoff spot. And potentially 2 playoff spots. There's a wild card spot also that one of them has right now. So it's going to be a really cool game. But yeah, I'm going to drink for that. So I can't go to a baseball game and
Yeah,
not drink.
a
It feels weird.
100%.
Yeah.
No, you can't. I might even buy a Cubs hat. I don't know. I'm a Dansby girl, so I might even buy a Cubs hat to support my guy Dansby. Um, let's get into talking about our topics today. First topic up for the day is about the Tennessee Senate race. So, Mark can talk about this more because he pays more attention to elections than I ever do. But someone who is currently holding a state office and has received a lot of notoriety this year has considered throwing her hat in the ring for the Senate seat. Mark, what's going on?
Yeah, so this is kind of going to be probably a bigger national story if she decides to go. But Gloria Johnson, who was, like you said, she got a lot of press over the past year because she was the member of the Tennessee Three who was not expelled. So she is from
Correct.
Knoxville. Yep, she's currently in the state legislature, and she's formed an exploratory committee to potentially run against Marsha Blackburn, who's our sitting senator. And
Mhm.
already in that race, which is an interesting thing, but people haven't really talked about that. Marquita Bradshaw, who was the nominee for Senate against
Yeah.
Bill Hagerty, is going to run again. So it's an interesting thing. So I
Wow.
think Gloria Johnson's kind of getting her. She has a lot of, I guess, grassroots support on the left. So I think she's trying to figure out,
Mhm.
and I think based on what we've seen, she'll probably raise a lot of money for this. So she's deciding whether she's going to get it or not.
Yeah.
I would urge everyone, because I feel like I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter and stuff saying, "Oh, you know, on the left, people saying, "Oh, yeah, we're excited for Gloria Johnson to run against Marsha Blackburn and stuff like that." I would be very hesitant to say that's definitely going to happen because Marquita Bradshaw has run statewide before. She's from the
It's
Memphis
true.
area, did really well in the primary in Memphis. So I always say that about politics, no matter where you stand or anything like that. It's like, do not. A lot of times, the person who's like, "Oh, they're definitely going to be the nominee," the anointed nominee, doesn't end up
Mhm.
being that. So it'll be interesting. And Marsha Blackburn, if you kind of look at the numbers and everything, she's a pretty strong candidate. She won by double digits against Phil Bredesen, who is, looking at that, probably the strongest candidate the Democrats have had statewide in a while,
Mhm.
just based on the idea,
Agree.
people generally like him as a person. He was a former governor, even Republicans would say pretty successful. So I'm not sure how it's going to
Right.
go. It'll be interesting to see. We will hopefully, I think if, we have to wait for people to officially get in, but we'll hopefully be able to poll it in our October poll. But it'll be really
That would
interesting to
be so
see.
exciting.
I know, and we did the presidential poll. We will be doing the presidential race again too to see if things have changed on that. So we're kind of looking forward to our
Mhm.
poll, but um, because Tennessee's kind of, it's very red. There's not many national publications that are interested in our state races because it's kind of an assumption. But I do think
Sure.
that for better or for worse, I do think that Gloria Johnson will bring more national media attention. That just because of what happened with, the while they were, they got kicked off the floor and, 2 of them got ejected
Yeah.
for the gun control stuff.
I mean, she was on Good Morning America. She's gotten a lot of national press. And so I think that the spotlight will be on her for any number of reasons. But I'm excited to see it because I just I've gotten it, Mark. You've made me love competitive elections. I used to be like, whatever, what's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to vote. I can't control anything. And it wasn't like entertaining to me like watching sports is. You wake up the next
Mhm.
morning and whoever wins, wins. Like, whatever. You have rubbed off on me and have made me really look at a lot of specifically like demographics of how people vote.
Yep.
That has become like an interesting thing to me since becoming friends with you and working with you for so long. So that's what I'm most excited to see is if Marquita Bradshaw runs, if Gloria Johnson runs, Marsha Blackburn back in the race, how will people vote? Because the female voting block is so big that seeing how the breakdown of how women vote if there are multiple women in the race, that is what's going to be most interesting to me. So I would be very, very excited to see the breakdown of that. I feel like I'm like back in college in like an elections class sometimes when I talk to you and we're like looking at crosstabs and stuff. I think it's so interesting.
I think it's cool too because I mean, of course, Beacon doesn't get involved in elections. We don't endorse anybody, but it's interesting to see how people vote, where they vote. What issues are. And that's why
Mhm.
kind of exit polls are really cool too because you don't just see they voted
Yeah.
for them. They're like their number one issue is this, and we're in the policy space. So like their number one issue is healthcare or it's taxes or whatever, and that's great for us to know. I don't know if there'll be an exit poll on this, but I really I think that I'm going against the grain when I say that I expect if Gloria Johnson were to get in a very competitive primary, which I don't think a lot of people are thinking in the Democratic side,
Mm.
because I think that truthfully, just from looking at it based on the state, like Marquita Bradshaw is a stronger candidate, name ID wise than people think. So it'll be interesting. Don't know about the general, again, Marsha Blackburn is fairly popular. It's a pretty Republican state.
Mhm.
But it's just interesting. And, I think that no matter where you stand on anything, competitive elections in terms of having people run from both sides are a good thing. I mean, you see some of these, especially in big cities, you see some of these city council rates or stuff where people are unopposed. And generally that's just not a
Mhm.
good thing for democracy when you kind of have one party and the other party's not even trying to run somebody. Even if it's a long shot, in Nashville, you might have been not like it's not likely a Republican will ever win, but it's just no matter what, competitive elections, and when you have two people running for a seat, it at least makes people discuss ideas. And that's one thing we really care about
Yes.
is ideas.
Yeah, civics and engagement and discussion over ideas, I think is really healthy. And high voter turnout. I grew up in a very small town in Alabama, and there were many seats that would go uncontested, and the turnout would just be so low. Especially when I started working for a political party, and you would see all the numbers coming in, and the numbers year over year of turnout going down and down and down and down. Anytime we can have an election where we get high voter turnout, I think it's just a really good sign for the direction of our country. So I think that's
As,
really cool.
as long as it's informed high voter turnout, that is one thing I will always believe in. This
Yes,
whole idea,
I do
I
agree.
have a whole issue with this. Like personally, like I hate when people are like, "Oh, we want 100% voter turnout." It's like I want 100% voter turnout as long as people know what they're voting on. I don't care how they're voting.
Yes.
I just want people to
Right.
understand it's not like, "Oh, I'm going to pull this lever," and it's both sides. You have these people like, "I'm just going to pull this lever because somebody told me to," or "This is what I am." So
Mhm.
I think informed voter turnout is great.
Yes, that's a caveat that is in my head, but I did not express it. But yes, we love informed voter turnout. We love everyone. I mean, we work for a think tank. We want everybody to be informed about us all the time. That's not
That's
reality,
our
but
job.
especially when it comes to election season, we really love that. That is our job to make sure that the people are informed, and so that's what we want.
And make sure you listen to Beacon because
um,
we'll inform you about every policy too. I mean, that is literally our jobs. I mean, as comms and marketing, it's like we want to make sure you're informed about policy. You may not always agree with us, but it's important that you're informed and that you see where we're coming from. And again, if you don't agree, great. At least you understand the issue and where the
and
other
if you
side
don't
comes from.
agree, yeah, if you don't agree, tell us. We'll talk
Yeah.
to you about it. We'll
Yeah.
talk to anybody about anything, anytime. We're happy to do it. Let's switch gears dramatically to a word that I never thought I would say again on this podcast. COVID is resurging, and I didn't want to acknowledge it because I was down real bad in January. I was so sick, and I was like, I don't ever want to talk about COVID again. I don't ever want to see it again. Um, but apparently, cases are up again, and I don't know. I am an introvert with a big old mouth and a big old personality, but still an introvert. I don't want to be locked in my house again, though. I don't want businesses to shut down again, though. And I certainly do not want the acne on my face of wearing a mask again. Mark, what are the details about this COVID resurgence? And please tell me that you agree that we cannot do another lockdown. Simply can't handle it.
I do agree. So basically, what's happening is there's a new strain, I guess, in New York specifically. I think like COVID cases are at 55%. I never know. I feel like so much of the media on this has been so exaggerated in a lot of ways. Again,
Mhm.
I think we all agree COVID's real. COVID has killed people, and it's awful. It's killed a specific group of people for the most part.
Mhm.
Elderly, very
Right.
obese people with pre-existing conditions. But
Yeah.
there is a new one, and
Immunocompromised. Sure.
and that is one of the biggest issues that we talk about that's important is I hope that we have learned from the mistakes of what happened with COVID last time. I think it turned out that the shutting down the businesses was clearly the wrong choice. There's no even discussion about that. And kind of looking at a country like Sweden, how it ended up in this great position in Europe for not shutting anything down. Basically, the deaths were almost exactly the same, if not less, and they didn't shut down their economy. And again, when we say shut down the economy, we don't mean, oh, you can't go get your fast food. What we mean is business owners who had to go under and close their business, and their livelihoods are ruined because of arbitrary government restrictions that made no sense.
Made no sense.
I think that, as we said, a lot of the people who shut things down were on the left, a lot of Democrats. I think that some of them probably have learned from that because of the harsh backlash they got. And looking back now, it's easier than ever to see like, oh, this was a bad decision. We should not shut these down. It didn't really stop anything. I think you can have different opinions about the mask mandates. It doesn't appear that if it worked, it worked barely, and probably not worth everything that was asked to do. And also out on top of that, we've talked about this, whether or not, the vaccine, you can feel whatever way you want about it. I mean, I think me and you are both vaccinated against it. However, the government forcing private businesses to do that was never acceptable, and it's not the role of government. It's like, so
not okay.
The idea is that hopefully things have been learned. Hopefully they understand where they went wrong in the past. And hopefully this is not a big thing at all, right? Because the media exaggerates everything. Hopefully it's just a small resurgence of something that's not even a big deal, that's not a bad, I think that Kira's mom probably has it right now, and she's kind of feeling down in Texas. But it's things like this are going to happen throughout history.
Issue
happened throughout history, whether it's, different diseases, plagues, whatever. This is going to continue to happen. The key is we need to know how to deal with it, and we need to learn from our mistakes. And that is the big issue there, is that there was a lot of mistakes made last time. And we can see very clearly now how bad the mistakes were. And, whether it's even, the government talking to Facebook and Twitter and making them censor different stories, or asking them to censor different stories because they don't want the truth, because they just don't know what the truth is. It's, let's have open conversation. And we can talk. There, of course, was conspiracy theories on the right. There's also conspiracy theories on the left about all the damage COVID does, and all this whole idea. So many of the things that we thought were true were not, right? Like COVID can't spread on surfaces. That was a whole thing. And I will.
Dude, I was like washing my cucumbers with food, antibacterial food wash every time I brought a cucumber home from the grocery store, because they told us it was, and now I feel like silly about it.
And and this is, I don't think it's a partisan thing to say, but anything that Anthony Fauci says, I would just definitely not trust. I think that he has proven time and again now that he is not a trustworthy source of anything, and that everything he says is basically for some other agenda. Maybe, I'm sure some stuff he says is true, but it clearly is not about keeping people safe. It's about making somebody happy, or making a political party happy. So let's learn from our mistakes. And I'm not somebody who really comes down on people like that, but Anthony Fauci has proven to be a completely unreliable source in this. So using him as the one and only expert on this, let's not do that again.
I just think once a sickness is out in the world, you can't put it back in the can. So every year we get our flu shots, and around flu season, we wash our hands more. I think that COVID is going to be the same way, and it should be treated as such. The world doesn't shut down every time it's flu season. Around, I guess it's like October-ish is flu season. We just get our flu shots, or at least I do. I always have. And move on with our lives and wash our hands. I know you don't get flu shots, and that's fine. That's a choice that I've made for myself. But I don't stop going in public. I don't demand that places be shut down, and I don't get unnecessarily scared. I just move on with my life and wash my hands more often, and my hands get like cracky and dry or whatever. So I think that COVID should be treated the same way, because we can't put it back in the can. It's going to exist, and we just have to live knowing that, and just be clean. Be clean.
And we believe in individual freedom. So guess what? You can stay in the house if you want.
Totally.
Nobody's asking you to come outside. You can quit your job. Nobody cares. Just stop asking other people to shut down their businesses, ruin their livelihoods, ruin their lives, not being able to travel, do whatever, because you're uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, don't do anything. It's a super simple concept. The same way, if you don't like this, you don't like that, don't do it. No one's forcing you to do it. We have freedom here, and people should be allowed to do what they want. And if you don't want to do that, you can say, oh, these people are stupid, these people are dumb. Either way, I don't care. Just stop forcing people through the government to do what you want.
Yeah, I've done a lot of dumb things in my life, and if you think I'm dumb for going out and enjoying the world, then So be it. Add it to my tab. Um,
Got a
let's
long tab.
really switch gears right now. Yeah, add it to my tab. We can really switch gears right now and talk about a sports topic because I'll give a shout out to two of our very good friends, Brett in Georgia, Dustin in Idaho. They are think tankers like us, and I am in a group chat with them. And I don't have my Facebook Messenger up all the time, but sometimes when I open it, I will open it to 72 messages.
It's for the
The other
best.
day when the Pac 12, yeah, it is for the best. The other day when the Pac 12 big news came out, I had it muted and I woke up the following morning to Facebook Messenger. It was like 110 messages. I still to this day don't know what's going on because sometimes I just don't read it because I never know what I'm going to get with you guys. So, Mark, apparently there's a conference realignment with some sports teams. I don't know. I'm ill-equipped to talk about this. This is your
Well,
thing. Let's send it.
oh yeah, this is a huge deal. Yeah, well, the Pac-12 is not a conference anymore,
I just didn't
essentially.
read y'all's messages.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
not.
it was huge. No, the Pac-12 has basically disintegrated. Every team has gone somewhere else, except for the teams that are left behind that
Oh
nobody wants.
no.
So you got to have Stanford and
Oh
Washington State that are
no.
like, oh, we don't really know what we're going to do. And if there is a Pac-12, it's going to be a realignment with like all these like mid-major teams in like the WAC. So it's crazy. So you have,
Mm.
the new Big Ten is definitely. I mean, this should matter to you because the new Big Ten is going to be the best conference in football, and it's not going to be close. They're going to be clearly better than the SEC if there's any question already. But it's going to be with Oregon and Washington joining the Big Ten, going along with USC and UCLA. They're going to be the super conference, the Big Ten. And a couple of them went to the
Oh
Big
boy.
12. Yeah, it's a big deal. And the Pac-12 is just
Maybe
not existing anymore.
maybe I should have read those messages. I just never know what I'm going to get when I read through those messages, and sometimes it's not great for my poor little eyes early in the morning to see all of that. I'll go back and read through them. I did not know
Well,
it was that bad.
oh, it's yeah.
I thought you were just being dramatic when you were like, it's not going to be a conference anymore. It's like
No.
really not.
It is literally not going to be a conference anymore. That's not dramatization. It is gone. And there's been a lot of, which I agree with. There's a lot of college football people, and not even college football, it's college basketball too. And everyone's just like, this has been the college sports is being ruined because everyone is only looking for more
Wow.
money and all just all these rivalries generally, like the whole idea of, Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, it's nonsensical. Oregon playing the Big Ten doesn't make any sense, and it's
Mm-mm.
all these rivalries and all these things that matter. And like the West Coast had all these, late games. They had this conference, which I mean, fun to watch, and everything's being destroyed by money. And my dad actually sent me a great article about like how people kind of for a long time really, trash Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's the only team in America who's like, they want to keep things the same. They could make more money being in a conference, and they're saying, no, we're not going to do this. Like they're
Mhm.
the only people who care about the traditions of college football, where everyone else is willing to go
Wow.
somewhere else in a drop bet. Oh, here's an extra $100,000 for me. I'm going, and it really has destroyed
Wow.
college sports. And you got to kind of figure out why that is, but nobody's happy with it. I've not heard one person who thinks this is good for college football or college basketball. And at some point too, there's not going to be such thing as a mid-major. You're gonna have like these,
I
like
know.
the
That'll
Pac
break your little heart.
the Pac-12 is going to pick up all these other like they're trying to try to get like, Colorado State, Boise State, these teams that are probably pretty good at basketball, because at this point, that's all the Pac-12 can be, is a basketball conference. But
That's
it's
so
really,
sad. That's going to
really
break
just,
your little sports mid-major loving heart.
I mean, think about UCF. They're in the Big 12 now. Cincinnati, who we love, Cincinnati's in the Big 12 now. All these like top and mid-major teams are going to big conferences, and it just sucks. I mean, I don't know what you can do about it, but it just, as a sports fan who loves college sports, there's going to be all these like super conferences, and not only that, there's going to be so many teams they can't even play each team every year. Like the SEC's already like that, and the Big
I
12's
know.
already like that. And
That's
then
tough.
you're playing less than half the teams, and it's just all these rivalries that have made college sports so great, we're not getting anymore. It's really disappointing.
And so you think it's all, I was going to ask you what it's all about, but you said it's all about money. You think
Money.
this is just a
Money.
financial decision for the people in charge of the conferences or the universities? Like, who is benefiting? Because to me,
It's the
It would seem like
universities.
if we're not getting these big rivalries though, and then people aren't watching these big rivalries, then where's the money coming from?
They get a
I guess I just don't understand.
they get a percentage, and the big thing is the TV deal. So like these schools get a
Yeah,
percentage where like the Big 12 signs say an 8-year deal with ESPN, and they all split it up and they get a ton of money for that. They get like that's where they make their money more than even tickets.
it's
So
tough.
it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. Like their ticket sales matter a little bit. But of course, and Florida State is being just I hate them. Just an awful
I do
school like
too.
always. An awful school
I
like
do
always. And they're
too.
like, hey, we if they signed this contract with the ACC, like, hey, if you don't change this contract to give us more money, we're gonna probably go somewhere else. And they're mad at this contract they signed because like we bring in so much revenue because people watch our games. Like, yeah, you also are terrible. You haven't been relevant in college football in 20 years, and you want all this money to be
Yeah.
brought in there. And it's just, and of course, other teams, the ACC, are like, I mean, come on, like, you guys have been bad. You signed this contract; it was fine for you, but now they're seeing like, oh, if these other schools are doing this, like, why don't we try to like
I
make
should
threats?
too.
So I actually,
Okay, then
I
why don't
think
you just like be good at sports?
I know. That's what I get. They've been irrelevant
Like
for years. I know.
if you want to make the money, like actually do good. I don't know.
But it
So
seems like
that's
the
a joke.
media has been so down on Notre Dame for so long, calling them selfish and all these other things. And now they're like the media's like, oh, we did a 180. They're the only ones who have principles who are standing by these because everyone else is just
Yeah.
going after the big dollar. Like Notre Dame is passing up money because they want to play their rivalries. That's the whole point. They want to pick who they play, and they don't want to go to another conference when they can't do that. So it actually is
Well,
it's
good for Notre
interesting.
Dame.
I know you never see them get good press either. Everyone kind of just dislikes Notre Dame unless you're a Notre Dame fan, but they deserve it. And I think college football, hopefully, it's not forever ruined. One more thing, I want to make one point because I'm going to be so mad if this happens. The NCAA tournament needs to stay at 68 teams. If they make it more than 68 teams, I'm going to blow a gasket, and I'm going to just. I'm going to be the worst person to deal with, and I might just quit my job here to like just boycott the NCAA for as long as I can because that would
Just
ruin
picket. Just mark outside the NCAA offices.
every
Just picketing by
every day
himself.
for yes, yeah, and just come up funny signs insulting them. But if they do that, that would ruin the best sports tournament in America, and I will boycott and go nuts. Don't do it, NCAA.
You
I
know,
will be so mad.
a lot of the times the things we say on this podcast do come true. We tend to be right about things. This is something that I hope you're not right
Oh,
about. I hope this
me
doesn't
too.
happen. While we're talking about sports and before we go, we got to give another shout out to the Nolensville Little League team. We talked about them last year that they made the Little League World Series. They're back again. What are they feeding those boys in Nolensville? Good for them for making Tennessee proud. I know
Yeah.
that it's at a really random, where did you say the Little League tournament is? It's like a random kind of middle of nowhere place, but they're headed up there. And good for these kiddos. Like good for them for getting to explore other parts of the US and enjoy that. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. It's not actually a good, or Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Sorry, it's not actually a good place to go. So you're not exploring much, but
But they get to
it
go somewhere. Like good
yeah,
for them.
it's basically just a town that's based on like just a Little League World Series. There's like 100 people that live there, and they just have this stadium they always go to. So it's good. Yeah, it's great for the local economy and the 10 people who live there. But I mean, it says something about a team that this is the third straight year Nolensville has made it. And there's something there because it's not like Nolensville gets all these, like big time athletes, kids, or that there's a million people that live there. So it's always really random who's good. I remember when Tom's River, New Jersey was good. It's like this random part, like next to the Jersey Shore. And that it's just cool. I think it's awesome to see these little kids doing something they want. It's like it brings you back to our days, playing sports as a kid and some of the most exciting things that we've done and like how awesome that was. And
Oh yeah.
what we do is nothing compared to what these kids are doing. Right? Like I'm thinking about all these like small things. Like these kids are making it to national television as 8-year-olds.
Yeah. What was your most proud sports moment, Mark? You got one? You want to relive your glory days?
Yeah, I don't know if it was most proud, but it was one of the most exciting. I just remember when in 8th grade our basketball team made the state tournament, and that was always a really cool thing for us. And I was good, but I wasn't like, I mean, we had better players on the team that averaged more points. I think that game we ended up losing to like this great team in Philadelphia, but it was the only game I think all year I was our team's leading scorer. It was like I really played a good game and I felt great about it. It sucks that we lost, but it was I just remember that moment just feeling like, everything was on the line. Like it kind of, I'm guessing how like an NBA player feels in the playoffs. And like these
Yeah.
kids, I just think about where these kids are like, this must be the most exciting thing ever. And like nerve wracking. Like think about like a 10,
Yeah.
11, I guess I don't know how old these kids are. Like 12, I think is the max. But think about a 12-year-old, like, oh, I'm about to be on ESPN. Like how crazy is that?
That's so crazy, but good for them. They're probably going to get scholarships and all the stuff to college if they keep going on this track. So good for them. I didn't really sport as a child. I
Jeez.
was a dancer and a cheerleader, but I did play church league basketball. And I remember like when you were young playing upward basketball, they didn't keep score, but I am so competitive that I demanded score be kept. And so every week I would have my dad keep score for us. And whenever we lost, I acted like it was the end of the world. Nothing
And
much
no one
has
else,
changed.
and no
I'm
one else
very
knew.
competitive.
So you're the
No,
only one who knew you
no,
lost,
it
right?
was just me.
I feel like I would need updates
Yes.
throughout the game though. I'd be like, Dad, what is the score now? Like, how much are we down by? Like, what do I need to
What's
do
going
here?
on, Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't that savvy, I guess, as a first or second grader, but I was scrappy. I was running around pushing people. I got the whistle blown on me so many times. I was just pushing people. I'm very competitive and I will do what it takes to win. And sometimes we didn't win, even though I was making enemies on and off the court.
It seems so stupid to me to play a game like that without keeping score. I just feel like I don't know what the point is. And
I
like I'm gonna keep
agree.
score.
I
Like
agree.
there's things I'm really bad at. Like I am bad at pool and I'm bad at darts. I am not gonna do them. But anytime I play, I'm like, oh, I want to keep score. I'll bet you $5. Like it's just there's something new like comes out of me when I'm like, oh, it's competitive now. But like I don't. You got to keep score of everything. And like when I'm in first grade, I don't know. Like it just feels like why am I playing if we're not keeping score?
Honey, I agree. That's why I have my dad doing it. So, I mean, I totally get it. I don't understand not keeping score, but we are way off on a tangent. What we wanted to say was congratulations, Nolensville. If we got any parents of the boys listening to this podcast right now, your boys are doing a good job. They're making the state proud. Good on them.
And we're cheering for them. And you can bet on the Little League World Series. So maybe we'll place a bet on Nolensville to win.
That
Watch
feels
that.
unethical.
What? We're betting on them to win. We're saying we support them. We think they can win.
It's
How's that?
unethical.
That's super ethical.
I guess so. It's just their children. I don't know. That feels weird. I mean, I know it's legal, but like I don't think I could bet on a child.
We're supporting them. We're saying we think they can win.
That's
We're
true.
like $10. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah,
Apparently
put
unethical.
your
to
money
bet
where
on-
your mouth is. Put
It's
your money where
like
your mouth is, Mark.
if you watch Always Sunny, like watching the game where they're like betting on like fourth grade basketball players that they're like coaching. But yeah, we either way, betting or not, we really hope they do well. And it's always cool to see a local team doing that. And these kids will remember this for the rest of their lives.
Good for them. Well, with that, we'll leave it on a high note. Thank you for listening to Decaf, a production of the Beacon Center of Tennessee. If you don't already, you should subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We will see you next week. Have an awesome weekend.